My name is Virginia McClure, and I am the head librarian in the Kentucky room and an assistant manager at Central Library. When I was in library school, I was an online student, and I was looking for ways that I could get hands-on experience. And I started looking online for, different things related to book arts, and I discovered that we had this press here in Lexington I didn't know anything about. And I looked at the website, and I looked at the picture of this room, and I was just amazed. And right on the website it said, "We are accepting apprentices." So I called up, and I came down, and they were like, "Yes, we would love to have you come in and help out." The press is located in the basement of the Margaret I. King Library on campus, which is now the Library of Special Collections for the University of Kentucky. The hours for the press are Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9 a.m. until 2 p.m. However, the basement is always open, and anytime that Special Collections is open, you can come in and they will bring you down to see the space. Here we primarily do broadsides. We do hand printing and hand setting, and we also hand cut most of our paper. I can bring what I know from work here, and that enhances the craft that I can do here, and what I learned here I can take back to my job, and it enhances what I know about books and what I know about manuscripts and what I know about the history of printing, which is so important in the Kentucky room. The items that we have, for instance, the Kentucky Gazette, and I can now look at the pages of the Kentucky Gazette and I can understand the process that they went through in order to set that type and print it, because we are doing the same thing here, and we're using some presses here that would be very similar to the ones that they would have had to use there. So that connection makes it very easy for me in the Kentucky room to feel like I'm a part of all of that history. And when you're setting type, you're always looking, there's a groove on each letter, and the groove allows you to be sure that your type is facing the correct direction and all of your letters line up properly. And this is really important when you're comparing the letter P and the letter Q. And of course, the phrase "mind your P's and Q's" would come from setting type, because lowercase p's and q's look identical. As an apprentice, I'm trying to learn everything. I'm particularly interested in bookbinding, and I want to learn a lot about that because that works nicely with what I do in the Kentucky room and working with old manuscripts and old books, particularly that might need to be repaired, or just looking at the binding. So that's kind of my focus, but I'm also very interested in printing, and I'm also interested in the design of printing and the design of broadsides. A lot of the broadsides that we do might be quotes from an important Kentuckian, or it might just be somehow related to the university or related to the state of Kentucky. And we do tend to go with more scholarly items, let's say, but we like to have a little bit of fun sometimes too. It started out with Carolyn Redding, who was head of special collections at the University of Kentucky, and she and her fellow librarians had a press that was just on their lunch break, and it was the High Noon Press, and this was in the 40s, and they basically taught themselves to print. About the same time, an important artist and craftsman and printmaker named Victor Hammer came to Lexington and was the artist in residence with Transylvania University. The two of them met, fell in love, and got married, and started their own press. But in the meantime, Carolyn Redding Hammer also continued having a press at the University of Kentucky, and so the King Library Press became the new name, and that has operated the entire time. And so she was the head of the press for years and years and years until she passed on. And this press is really wonderful because we have inherited through her many of the items that Victor Hammer owned. And so right over here is Victor Hammer's wooden press. And this press, Victor Hammer had made in the 20s in Vienna. And he had some difficulty, actually, because of World War II. He had to leave the press behind. They weren't sure if they were going to find it, but they went back in the 1950s and they found it, and they were able to bring it to Lexington. So this press is so wonderful because it is not unlike the press that Gutenberg would have used. It is in that same style, and it's got, you know, stone here and wood, and it's got the screw. So this is one that we love to print on this because of the historical aspect. It's labor intensive. So this is an example of the kind of broadsides that we like to do. She's a Kentucky poet, and she designed it in a way to evoke the experience that she had when she fell while visiting the Falling Water house and rolled down the hill, and the thoughts that she had. And so for us, in order to hand set this poem, it took a long time to do, and it was very complicated. Unlike laying out something on a computer screen, in this case, you have to very carefully calculate where all the words are going to be and exactly how many spaces you're going to put in. One nice thing about the press, for anyone that can't get here during the week, we do a spring and a fall workshop, and that is open on a Saturday. And we do a free lecture on Friday night in conjunction with that. And so if you go to our website or if you call the press, then we can put you on the mailing list and we can tell you about that. So the fall workshop's usually in October, the spring workshop's usually in March or April. And they're really wonderful Saturday events. We open the place up specially, and we get a craftsperson from around the country, somebody well known, and they could be, you know, a bookbinder, they could do paper marbling, they could be, you know, somebody that's a book designer, and they come in and they lead a workshop, and it's a great day. There has been a long tradition of printing in Lexington, and the university press had published in the past a book on printers in Lexington. So that's always been there. It probably has to do with this being an area with a number of universities. So we've Transylvania and the traditions of Transylvania, traditions of the University of Kentucky, and the first newspaper in the state of Kentucky was published here in Lexington. So there's just a long tradition of people being interested in printing. And right now, there's just a general movement to look at handcrafted items. And I think that's, goes around the whole country, but here in Lexington, we just have, I think, the resources and enough interested people that we can support multiple presses. And it's really nice that we're seeing this sort of renaissance of letterpress printing here in Lexington. And that means that the letterpress community is just really supportive of all the different presses, and which is great, because sometimes we have to borrow type from somebody. And we all really like to work together. It is absolutely a labor of love. We don't do this to make money. We do this because we really, really enjoy it. We enjoy making things.